Hello and welcome to Dice and Demons. I'm Emma and today I want to talk about painting an army for a tabletop war game. So I mostly play Age of Sigmar and 40k, but I think this goes for any type of war game where you are painting like an army of models instead of just a single model for, let's say, a role-playing game, or a handful of models for something like a skirmish game like Warcry or Kill Team or something along those lines. So I have been in this hobby for about 6 or 7 years at this point, and I have quite a few attempts behind me at painting an army for Age of Sigmar and 40k, and some of them are successful and some of them, well, not quite as much. So in this video I want to explain what has made a difference for me and what has worked out and what really hasn't worked out, and hopefully you'll get some tips and tricks along the way to help you decide what you want to get out of painting an army and how you want to approach it, because obviously painting and building and buying an entire army is a huge investment both in time and money. And so if I can just help make that journey a little bit more enjoyable and a little bit more easy for you, and perhaps help you avoid some of the mistakes I made along the way, well, then my goal with this video has been accomplished. The reason I started thinking about what I actually think is important when you are deciding how you want to approach painting an army was because Games Workshop kindly sent me their new Kroot box, where you have all the nice Kroot warriors for the Tau, and I really like the Kroot, and I liked them when they were first shown off, and I've never really been interested in painting a Tau army per se, but I love the Kroot. I think they're sort of a little bit more a sleek version of the Orcs, to me at least, and I love the Orcs for 40k as well, so it was just right up my alley, and I really want to paint some Kroots and just have fun with it. And I don't know what it is, but all the color schemes I have seen for the Kroot so far have been more or less desaturated. They tend to have some like earthy browns, some different versions of skin colors, desaturated greens, stuff like that. And so in my mind somehow that turned into, okay, you need to paint them in a desaturated color scheme or else it just is not gonna work. So I painted up a Kroot warrior, and the photo quality here on the camera is not the best, but I'll put in some photos of the minis along the way so you can get a better idea of what they look like. But I think you get the overall gist of this mini. It's got like a bluish gray skin tone. It's got some blue hands, pink face, and some red hair. And I'm not gonna say I didn't have fun painting this mini, because I did. I thought it was fun. I thought it was enjoyable. I learned something along the way, as I usually do when I paint a new model. So that's all well and good. But at the same time, I have to say, I'm not in love with this color scheme. I'm not in love with the way it looks. I think it looks fine. It's completely serviceable. There would be, I think, nothing wrong with an entire army painted like this and displayed on a tabletop and, you know, being used for playing games. It would just be, yeah, absolutely fine. But as I said, painting an entire army is a huge investment, and I don't want to feel fine, like lukewarm fine about something when I'm going to approach a project of this scale. I want to feel enthusiastic. I want to feel excited. I want to feel like, oh, I just can't wait to paint this and then paint this and then add this to the army and see what this is going to look like and how they're going to all look together. Fine just doesn't really cut it. So I haven't really worked out what I'm going to do with the Kroot yet, but a desaturated, more realistic, naturalistic approach, that's completely out of the picture. It's just not fun for me, and yeah, I'm not willing to invest that much time and energy into something that I don't think is fun, even though it might fit in better with the lore or with, you know, the sort of, I don't know, the whole idea of what this army is supposed to look like. I'm not gonna do that. So I have to come up with something else. I'm not quite sure yet what it is, but I think I'll come up with something, or else if I don't come up with something that I get really enthusiastic about, well, then the Kroot is just not gonna be an army for me. So we'll have to wait and see. So another example I have is the Seraphon for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. So they were my first army when I first got into wargaming, which is about, I think, 6 or 7 years ago now. And I have always loved them ever since I first, walked into that hobby store. I just thought, lizards riding dinos, that's just cool. That's just way cool. And I think the models are beautiful. And so these were the old sculpts with the warriors and stuff when I started. But just like the whole, have like the big T-Rex and the monsters. It was just awesome to me. And I painted up an entire 2,000 points army and, brought it to tournaments and all sorts of things. And I was really happy with it. But as time went on, I started feeling not quite as enthusiastic about my Seraphon army because, as I said, this was my first army and I didn't really know anything about painting miniatures. I didn't know a lot about different techniques. I didn't know about, what color schemes I would enjoy and which I wouldn't really like. So I just, threw things at the wall and saw what stuck basically with this army. So it had like kind of a slapdash look to it because some models were in this color and some were painted like at a pretty high level and some were just speed painted because I needed to have 60 skinks for a tournament the next day. And in the end, I just wasn't feeling very enthusiastic about this army as a whole. Not the Seraphon, but this particular sort of installment of a Seraphon army. And so I ended up selling the entire thing and then reinvesting in the Seraphon range. And so now I have my Seraphon army 2.0 and they are called the Lollipop Lizards. And I have an example here. This is one of the new sculpts of warrior with a banner, and you can probably guess why it's called the Lollipop Lizards because they are just completely filled with bright colors all over the place, and they look like a piece of candy. So I am really happy with this army, and have had a lot of fun repainting the Seraphon because, as I said, I love the sculpts and I love painting these models. I love painting the scales and everything, and the big dinos. That's just fun to me. And at the same time, I also made a couple of mistakes along the way with this 2.0 version of the Seraphon army. And I have a model I want to show you just to illustrate that. And it's this model here. It's one of the new Raptidon minis, and don't get me wrong, I think this paint job is absolutely fine. In fact, I'm quite proud of it. I think this is the prettiest paint job I have for the entire Seraphon army that I'm painting. The only thing is that I think painting this took me about 20 hours or something, perhaps even more, because I spent so much time shading and highlighting and trying to glaze the skin. And I don't particularly enjoy painting skin. The thing that attracted me to the Seraphon in the first place was like the look of the dinos with the scales and stuff, not painting skin. And this model just has a lot of skin, and I wanted it to be really smooth and nice because I thought, okay, I wasn't happy with my first Seraphon army because I just didn't think they looked that great anymore. So I need to really make sure that I am definitely painting to a level that I'll be happy with. And that was just way too much because, as I said, painting this about 20 hours, and well, that can be what it is. But the problem with this model is, and please don't rat me out, don't tell anyone, it looks like this on the other side. Yeah, so I spent 20 hours painting half a model. And this is not even like a character model or anything. This is just a guy that's going to be in a cavalry unit of at least 5 other dudes. And so 20 hours for one half, so that would be 40 hours for one, and that means 200 hours for a unit of 5. I'm not gonna spend that much time painting them. That is simply way too much time for me to spend on a gaming piece for an army game. Again, if it was for a competition piece, like a painting competition, that's a completely different ball game. But for painting what is, after all, gaming pieces in an army game, 200 hours for 5 models. No, that's not gonna happen. That just doesn't make any sense for me. It was just sort of the ratio between effort and reward. It was just completely skewed at this point. It just didn't make any sense to me, and it was just way too much. So I have never painted a full unit of the Raptidons because I can't really come up with a way of painting them that I will both feel really happy with, and that will also be just slightly efficient at least. I don't mind spending a lot of time painting my armies, but that Raptidon was overdoing it by quite a stretch. So painting an army, really try to work out what level of painting you're happy with and how much time you realistically want to invest before you have a painted army on the tabletop. I know we as human beings always have a tendency to be like really optimistic about our future selves. Like, okay, so today I just want to watch Netflix and eat chips and just lay on the sofa. But I'm sure that in 2 weeks from now I'll be reading Shakespeare while eating carrots and exercising a lot. We're always, really optimistic about our future selves. And that also, of course, goes for the tabletop wargaming hobby. But try to be just slightly realistic if you can. So speaking of being realistic, also try to be honest with yourself. What do you actually like in a model? I mean, what kind of aesthetic do you like with the models? Do you like the look of elves? Do you like the look of big war machines? Do you like some stuff that's a little bit silly and goofy? Do you like that it's like really dramatic or demonic or whatever? What is it that you actually feel truly enthusiastic about? And try to be just slightly realistic about that as well. And the reason I speak about that in this video is this lovely lady here. She is from the Daughters of Cain range from Age of Sigmar, and I quite like the models. I quite like the snake ladies for this range. The only thing is I don't really like elves. It's a personal preference thing. There's nothing wrong with elves. It's just like elegant, spindly guys and girls. It just doesn't really do much for me. I don't know. Perhaps it's just because I can't really relate to them at all, because I'm definitely not, a tall, spindly, elegant elf woman. So I don't know what it is. It's just, I just don't like the elf aesthetic a lot. Some of the individual models I can really like the look of, and I can think they're really cool and beautiful sculpts. But when it comes down to it, I just fail to stay invested in painting them. And so I think with the Daughters of Cain, I have about perhaps 700 to 1,000 points painted up. And I have never even played a single game with them because there's nothing wrong with the paint job. I think there's nothing wrong with the models. There's nothing wrong with anything, except that this is just not the army for me. And I kind of forgot that when I bought them, because I was just really optimistic about my abilities to turn into someone who liked painting elves, and that was silly because it never really happened. Along the same lines, because I don't learn from my mistakes. I talk about them here on this video and hope that you can, but I so far completely failed to do it. So I have also invested in a Sylvaneth army, which is like a wood elf-ish faction. And so I have, this is a Kurnoth hunter, so like a big sword swinging tree dude. And the whole idea with this army was that I thought, wouldn't it be fun if you just painted up like sort of crazy color combination on some tree dudes. And I felt so enthusiastic about this idea that I bought a whole bunch of Sylvaneth. And then it dawned on me, I don't really like elves. I still don't like elves because this was after the failed Daughters of Cain army project. And painting sort of skin and wood is not really my jam. I like painting armor surfaces, like big flat armor pieces, and I like to paint chunky orc boys and stuff. I don't enjoy painting wood people, and I don't like painting elves, so that was silly. And I was being overly optimistic, and I completely forgot about the Daughters of Cain. And so now I have a couple of 100 points painted up. I think I have 6 Kurnoth Hunters and 10 of the little Dryad things, like the battle line. And then I sold the rest of them off because I realized this is not going anywhere, this army project. So don't do that. If you can help it, try to be realistic. Do you actually like sort of the main aesthetic of an army, or is it just something that you feel really enthusiastic about for like 2 hours and then sort of fall out of love with again? Perhaps you should just like sleep on it before you purchase an army that you that is very closely related to something else that you actually didn't really enjoy that much either. That would be my tip. A completely different project I have painted up is this. This is a model from the Ossiarch Bone Reapers. So the sort of construct skeleton army for Age of Sigmar. And this army is one that I painted, I think, just around the time when the Ossiarch came out. So I don't know, it's 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. And I have quite mixed feelings about this army. I have at least 2,000 points painted up. They're all painted and they are all based. They're ready to go. I could put them, on the tabletop and bring them to a tournament and all sorts of things. They're ready to go. The only thing is that I'm not quite happy with the paint job, and it's not this army is actually painted in a very cohesive color scheme, so they all match, and it's not like with the first Seraphon army where it was like a bit of orange here and some yellow there and some purple over here and 10 different painting techniques and stuff like that. This is a nice cohesive army, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's absolutely certain. There's nothing wrong with it. The only thing is I'm just not really I don't feel proud of it. I didn't invest a lot of time and energy in painting this. I painted these just when the contrast range came out, and so it was my first experiment with contrast paints, and so it was just, all right, I'm going to spray them with, I don't know, a white or a beige color, and then 1 coat of contrast paint, and then very few highlights, and they're done. Which is fine, and which is actually, of course, what the contrast range allows you to do really quickly. So I think I painted up the entire army in a couple of months or something. So it was really fast, and at that time it was exactly what I needed, because I had become bogged down a little bit by the idea that I should try to be able to paint like, some of the really great painters out there who are painting really realistic color schemes and non-metallic metal and doing a whole bunch of work with glazing and stuff, and I wasn't really having fun, and I felt like I was kind of a failure with my hobby. And so having this range of models come out, and then the contrast paints, and just feeling like a great sense of freedom, like I don't have to do anything, I can do whatever I want. I'll just put 1 coat of contrast paints on these guys and they'll be done in no time, and I'll have a painted army and it'll be awesome. And that's what I did, and it was a huge sense of accomplishment, and I was so happy with it. And I've played a bunch of games with these guys, and so I think I don't regret anything about the Ossiarch Bone Reapers and the whole experience of painting it, because it was exactly what I needed at that time. It's just I have moved on a bit since then, and now I'm not really feeling them, but at the same time I still feel really happy that I allowed myself to do that at that time, just feel I don't have to live up to any expectations at all. I can do whatever I want. And I felt so proud of just getting them done and getting them onto the tabletop, which is always something to be proud of. I definitely still believe that. It's just now I'm not really feeling them because I think they're a little bit boring, but there's nothing wrong with them. I have a lot of mixed feelings when it comes to the Ossiarch Bone Reapers. Then for something I don't have mixed feelings about, this is my this is a truck for my Orc army for a 40k, and yeah, it has a spring underneath. Don't ask. Everything about this model in particular and the army as a whole is just silly, which is what I love about the Orcs. They're so silly, and they are also very clearly not elves. Awesome. And you can do anything with an Orc army. You're allowed to do anything. The goofier it gets, the sillier it gets, the better it is. And that has just made all the difference to me when it comes to painting this army. This is my first 40k army, and I've never really painted much 40k because the whole grimdark aesthetic, it doesn't really appeal that much to me. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and the grimdark look can be really, really cool, and it can look awesome on the tabletop. But it's just not something that I personally feel invested in painting. I don't feel enthusiastic about it at all. And so I didn't really know how to get into 40k until I started with the Orcs. And it has just been amazing. There is always something new to add. There is always something fun and silly to do. And what really works for me with the Orcs is that I enjoy painting as I said, a lot of armor plates, and there are tons of armor plates on the Orc models where you can do like the cross hatching, like the hash marks I paint, for instance. I enjoy painting like that, and I have just so much opportunity to do that with the Orcs. You also have a lot of skin, of course, with the boys, but I mean, they're Orc boys, and I decided to paint them in silly and very bright colors. So even though I don't invest a lot of time and energy in a single Orc boy, I still think they look just fine and fun on the tabletop, and I don't mind that they are not all painted to a very high quality at all, because looking at them as a whole on the tabletop, I just still feel really happy and really proud, and they always kind of make me laugh. And so yeah, it's always an army I want to go back to and add more stuff to. I actually kind of just ordered the new battle forest for the Orcs with the Stomper, and I know the Stomper isn't good. I know it's not worth the points, but it's just, I mean, it's the silliest model ever. It's just like, a flower pot upside down with armor panels on it. It's just ridiculous, and I can't wait to paint it. So there you go. And that's my whole thing with the Orcs, is I can always just justify it to myself by, well, it's silly, it's stupid, it's perfect, and that just makes me so happy and make it such a sense of it feels so liberating and creative. And so I never really feel stuck with the Orcs. There's always something I want to do and something new and fun to experiment with, and it's just the exact amount of fun and silly, and also still ways of challenging myself and doing new stuff, and it just all comes together for me with the Orcs. And so that's why, for me, I think it's definitely the army that I'm the happiest with. I think the Seraphon for Age of Sigmar, I think, is the most beautiful army, and I think it's the coolest army. But at the end of the day, if I could only go with one army, I would have a hard time choosing between the Seraphon and the Orcs, but I do think I would end up going with the Orcs because as someone who struggles a lot with mental health issues, painting something that makes you laugh, even on the darkest of days, that is just worth everything, basically. And that to me is the Orcs, and that's what the hobby is all about. Doing something that you enjoy, doing something that is fun, doing something that improves your life in some way. So I hope this video of me going through some of my failed and some successful army painting projects was at least slightly helpful, because I think painting an entire army can be such a rewarding project. It can be something to like really pour your heart and soul into, and something that when it is done and you put it on the tabletop, it can just make you feel so happy and so proud, and such a huge sense of accomplishment. And that is definitely something that I want to encourage you to try, if you think that that might be something that you would enjoy doing. At the same time, try to avoid some of the pitfalls. Try to avoid buying into an army that perhaps it's because your friends or the wargaming community at large is really enthusiastic about this new army, and you think, oh, I mean, yeah, it is actually very, very cool. And then in the end, it turns out, well, yeah, it was cool because it was new and shiny, but when it comes right down to it, it just has a lot of components that means that you're not gonna enjoy spending hours and hours and hours painting it. So for me, for instance, that happened with the Imperial Guard. I thought, oh, this is really cool, and the new models and the Guard is coming out. And I mean, I'm not really enthusiastic about painting tiny foot soldiers that are like humans. I think the new models are cool, but there's nothing about it that really sort of scratches that itch for me. And so that was just not the right investment, and I have sold them off since, because I quite quickly realized that this was going nowhere. But try to see if you can really picture in your mind what it is about the painting process that you enjoy the most, and then try to build your army painting project around that. If you enjoy bright colors, and then find an army that you think, okay, this will look awesome in these colors. Or if you really like painting big honking robots, go for an army of that instead of the like tiny foot soldiers like I did. Do you like painting cloth? Do you like painting leather stuff? Do you like painting skin or scales or armor plates or whatever? So try to work out what it is about the painting process that you just look forward to the most when you're painting a model, and see if you can do something with that when you are deciding to go for an army painting project. So yeah, as I said, I hope this was in some small way helpful. Let me know if you have any sort of comments or questions or suggestions or anything like that, and I will do my very best to take a look at it and answer as many as I can. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye!